So you're a vision-driven entrepreneur, maybe you're a real estate developer, you run a small technology company maybe, or maybe you run a small pharma company, and you get the more capital you have access to, the more you can do with your business, and you can exponentially outperform your competitors and get that financial retirement, whatever it is you're looking for, just by simply understanding how to access a lot more capital than traditional banks are able to give you. In this video, I'm going to tell you and explain to you how managed buy and sell programs work. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how they differentiate from things like private placement programs. You've got to watch this video. My organization on this YouTube channel decommoditizes banking products and services that, honest to God, have been in existence for 60, 70 years. And banks are offering this every single day to their Fortune 30, top 30 or top 5 customers. If you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, I really invite you to do so. You'll see customer walkthrough studies, banking products and services, strategies that are working. And so together we can create meaningful change. My organization works with vision-driven entrepreneurs, and we leverage their cash and assets to get them access to capital that banks are primarily doing this for the top 5 customers. We can do this because of our volume of business, our experience, our expertise, our transparency, and the capital that the client is getting from these programs that have been in existence for, I'm sorry to say, a gazillion years, allows that business owner, that vision-driven entrepreneur, to get funding they need to grow their business, to compete, to create meaningful jobs. Maybe a lot of my clients are taking this newfound revenue, income, whatever you want to call it, and putting it into buying side businesses, buying new businesses, putting the funding they need so they can exit their business. In this video, I want to talk about something called managed buy and sell programs, what they are, how they work, and how they differentiate from similar sound programs like private placement programs. A managed buy and sell program, in a very, very simple way of explaining it, is a game of hedging. And here's how it works. Every industry that I know of does something called hedging. I come from the real estate investment industry, and that's how I got to where I am today. This is something that happens every single day. A real estate investor will see a real estate opportunity, a piece of land, a property, a house, whatever the deal is. And they'll put a deposit down, and with the promise to pay for the rest of the asset in someday in the future, like in 9 days from now, I'm gonna pay for the whole real estate, or in a year from now, or 6 months from now, I'm gonna pay you out for the amount that I've put a down payment on now. Hedging happens pretty much in every industry. Automotive, debt collection, I can go on and on and on. If what I'm saying is true, I want you to consider hedging also happens in an area called buying and selling banking instruments. There's a couple of differences in this compared to cars, as an example, hedging on cars. The hedging of banking instruments, you're working with banks. You're not working with John Smith or Joe Schmuck or somebody like that. You're not trying to hedge buying 5,000 cars from China and importing it to Dubai and making a profit or something like that. You're working with, what I would say are tier A and tier B banks around the world. And let me tell you, there's a lot of profit to be made if, and only if, you know what you're doing, or if you're working with the right financial partner. How hedging works is, at least I'll talk about our experience and how we do it with our clients. So let's say we have a high net worth individual client, and they'll say, Taimour, I'm interested in a managed buy and sell program. Let's get involved. Primarily, we do this with friends and family, people we know. We can't solicit to general public. So the client will say, okay, I'm going to put up, let's say, I'm just making this up, $5 million. Great. We'll say, okay, if you're gonna put up 5 million, maybe we can put up 500 million in terms of assets. And when I mean assets, what I don't mean is monopoly money. I mean like real, genuine assets worth $500 million. Then what we do is we go to the SBLC cutting house. There are lots of organizations that their job is to issue letters of credit. We call them cutting houses. So you go to an SBLC cutting house and you say, we're looking for $500 million stamp letter of credit. Here's my KYC. By law, you have to have a KYC. We're looking to do project funding. This is not a financial scheme, so it has to be legitimate. And this is why it requires vision-driven entrepreneurs. Here are the assets I'm putting up as collateral. I can demonstrate I have $500 million. This is where we come in as a financial partner. We have access to $500 million. Here's my proof of funds. Can you, Mr. Cutting House, issue a stamp letter of credit to us? Cutting House will say, sure, no problem. We'll do a background check on you. We'll look at the project, and we're going to give you a stamp letter of credit. Here's what I did not say for people who are not very educated or sophisticated. They're not doing a credit check report. They're not providing a loan. They're not doing like none of these things. So don't collide retail banking or retail lending or commercial lending with issuing letters of credit. It would be like colliding Kung Fu and karate. Although they both fall into the realm of martial arts, if you know anything about martial arts, you would know Kung Fu is very different from karate. Or if you're a religious person like I am, it would be like being Catholic with being a Protestant. They're different, they're very different. Although I actually believe that God said one thing and humans interpret it differently, but that's a separate video. So my invitation is don't collide this with retail banking or commercial lending, because then you get messed up. So the issuer of a SBLC will say, okay, I will issue a stamp letter of credit for, let's say, $500 million to you, and they give you a contract. In the contract, it will say the cost of issuing a $500 million SBLC is, let's say, 50%. I'm just making this up. 50% means that the buyer of the letter of credit has to pay the issuer $250 million. So that's when I say managed buy and sell program, that's the buy side of it. Previous videos I've done, I explained clearly how an issuer makes money and how a monetizer makes money. And then how does a visionary entrepreneur access what I will call free capital is probably the word that most people understand. The legal word is a modified loan agreement. The most popular word in the United States is non-recourse loans. Taimour Zaman has his own vocabulary, which is not good. So I call it getting a commission, profit, whatever you want to call it. So the issuer says, okay, I'm going to give you a stamp letter of credit, and then they give you something called contract. You know, when you get a contract from a vendor, same thing. So what we do is we take the contract, we go looking for a monetizer, somebody who can monetize that instrument at a higher price than what we're getting it for. So if what we're getting it for is 50, what we want to do is sell it to somebody who's going to give us 70, 80, 90. If you're looking for how you participate in the same experience, same program, is imagine you went to Walmart to buy something. You know Walmart is not selling you t-shirts at the price that they got it for. Or if you went to a car dealership to buy a car, I'm sure you know the dealership is not selling you the car at the price they got it for. Hedging banking instruments is exactly the same thing. There's nothing magical about it. There's nothing innovative about it. Let me tell you, banks do not like innovation. It's not a good word. So what we do is we find, okay, we go to cutting houses that we have relationships with. We say we want to buy a stamp letter of credit, or we want to lease a stamp letter of credit. Then we go to a monetizer. We'll say we want to monetize this instrument. What's the LTV we can get? So primarily, you're looking for somebody who's going to give you something called a spread, a delta. Generally speaking, and I've been doing this for a while, it takes 10 days of hustling and you're really hustling like a stockbroker. Hustling to find the monetizer who will give you the terms you're looking for at a price you're looking for to generate a real profit. When you got the monetizer and you got the issuer and the terms match up, you sign a contract with the issuer, you sign a contract with a monetizer, and then when the issuer issues the instrument, the standby letter of credit, primarily they're issuing it to the monetizer bank, to the monetizer and their bank. And so the bank of the monetizer then sends the money to the issuer's bank. Now, the one thing I love about this industry is this is not willy-nilly. You cannot work with somebody who's got a Gmail address. You can't work with somebody who's got a Hotmail address. You have to have law firms involved. You're working with tier A and tier B bank accounts or banks. So like a HSBC instrument is priced significantly differently compared to the no-name Bank of Africa instrument, as an example. So you're getting a HSBC instrument and maybe you're monetizing it with a tier B bank, and the tier B bank is giving you a higher margin than the cost of the instrument. So let's say the issuer says, I'm going to give you 500 million standby letter of credit. My cost or your cost for getting this instrument from me is 50%, so 250 million. So then we go and we look for a monetizer. Monetizer says, I will buy the instrument or I'll lease the instrument, whatever the deal is, and I'm going to give it to you at 75% LTV. So now you've got a profit of 25% on the instrument. That's how buy and sell programs work. Typically, from all the ones that I've participated in, the people involved, usually the attorneys, will say this takes about 90 banking days to produce and do from start to finish. I haven't seen anything to really be done within that short time frame. I usually tell clients this would be done within a year. Like in my experience, I never saw COVID happening. In my experience, I never saw the Russian invasion of Ukraine happening. So every time there are these, what I call unexpected events that I never saw happening, it impacts timelines. If I had to come up with, Taimour, how long does this take? I would say 180 days on average, and please don't hold me on account to it. Obviously, there are circumstances that impact that. And that's how managed buy and sell programs work. There's an upfront fee. These things are not cheap to do. Not everybody can participate in it. Not everybody has $3 or $5 million to put up. Not everybody has the patience to wait 180 banking days. Not everybody knows the right players. Not everybody has a relationship with the right players. Some people will, at best, will have a quarter of the solution they're looking for. So maybe they have an attorney that they trust, or maybe they come across an issuer that they trust, but it takes a lot more than just having an issuer. If you want to compete in MMA competitions, you need to have a mentor, a guy who's been there, done that. You can't go to a gymnastic teacher to train you for something like that. At least I wouldn't recommend that for sure. Kind of like where we play in, that's our expertise, or that's our wheelhouse, where we jump in and put that together and bring in our resources for the client. So typically, that's how they work. And then the payout is a massive payout on day 90 or day 180 or day 360. There's a massive payout. How it compares to private placement programs is very simple. And remember, please, in these videos, my intention is to, I'm not soliciting, I'm not trying to ask you to call me or my firm or any of the 400 brokers who work with us to go give us $5 million checks. So don't hear this as a solicitation. That's like really not my intention. Private placement programs work very differently and somewhat similarly. And the best metaphor I can talk about is Christianity. Whether you're a Jehovah's Witness, a Catholic, a Protestant, or like that, end of the day you use the word Christ as the name of God or something like that. But the interpretations of what Jesus said and the practices of that is significantly different. Same thing with buy and sell programs. compared to private placement platforms. Private placement platform, first of all, if you have $5 million, I honestly, genuinely don't know any legitimate, real private placement platform providers who will take $5 million. They're starting at $100 million. You'll get aggregators who will take $5 million, but the guy's an aggregator. And not to make them sound bad, because I myself aggregate too. So on the aggregator, on a private placement program, the client is putting out $5 million, and it's for a period of time, let's say for 1 year. And then for that $5 million every month, they're getting 30%, 20%, 40% returns on their money. If the aggregator can bring in $100 million, so $5 million from you, $5 million from the other guy, $50 million from a client who's rinse and repeating, and can put together $100 million and is able to do buy and sell programs on a volume basis, or go to a real platform, then the returns of $5 million would vary from 20% to 100%. Sometimes, well, I've never ever seen 100% amount for sure. Very rarely I've seen that. Anyways, that's how private placement programs work. So you put in $5 million, and maybe every month you're getting 20% or 30% of that $5 million, and it's happening for 10 months or 1 year. At the end of the term, you get your deposit back, and what you get to keep is at 20%, or 40% is what you get to keep. The buy and sell program is different. You're putting up that $5 million. If you're doing it the right way, the correct way, you're doing it with a law firm. There needs to be a law firm that's managing the issuance and the monetization of the instrument. Law firms have something called insurance. There's a bar you can call and complain about. Like, there's a loss of trust factor in a law firm, especially a law firm that knows what they're doing. So in a buy and sell program, you put out $5 million in 90 days, 100 days, whatever. Let's say they get a $500 million instrument. Let's say 10% of that is your profit. So you got $50 million coming as a profit for the $5 million you put up in 90 days or 180 days. So let me tell you, I think it beats a lot of 9-to-5 jobs all day long. My father was a banker. I have a little bit of understand what banking is. I hate these bank executives who graduate from some Ivy Tower and they start their career on the 44th floor, somehow get promoted to the 77th floor. The products and services that are for their bottom line. And a lot of business owners that I personally know, went bankrupt or just had a really hard time paying bills at times during COVID or global inflation or this and that. And I was like, I think it's time to really make available ahas, real, rich, tangible ahas that business owners can say, okay, I can now access banking products and services that these banks are offering their Fortune 5 or Fortune 30 clients. My name is Taimour Zaman. I hope you found this helpful. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't. If you have follow-up questions, please feel free to reach out to my firm and book a consultation call. Thank you. I want to ask, what was the new outcomes you got out of coming to this call? What became possible that you didn't know you could have the day before?
It was very interesting talking with you, Taimour. We usually have assets and investments made with banks. We always deal with banks, and you opened a completely new avenue for us. It was a scary path initially, but the time and the explanation that you put forward for us was so interesting that, we are now drawn in with complete confidence and trust, hoping that our future relationship is, much more beneficial for us.
But what I got from you guys today is phenomenal. You answered so many things that were in the unseen to me, as far as custodial banks and and non-recourse loans. It's amazing what you threw out there at me, and that was just a small piece of the pie, I know.
Okay, so for the purpose of this confidentiality of this conversation, I'm not going to disclose what your name is. I'm just going to say you're a financial services advisory company out of the UK, and you're using our expertise and a lot of our insights for providing structured loans to clients around the world. Am I correct in saying that?
Yes, correct. Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about the value you got out of our work together so far?
The value is you cannot use words to say in a way. Yeah, because you shortened all the process, everything very much, and also the transparencies. So that one is a key, I think, and also the honesty. Those are the key. Yeah, the value of that is really you can't use words to express in a way.
For sure, I appreciate it. Thank you. Hey, I just want to say on behalf of everybody who works with me, people like you make my day all day long for sure. And I really want to say thank you for being such a valuable person who has a lot of projects and has a lot of questions. And thank you for trusting me with all the money you and your clients trust you with. So I really appreciate that.
Okay, thank you, Tim.